Hi, I'm Alvin, and this is just a quick intro into the interface of ZBrush 4 or 5 for those of you that want to may pick up the program or already know a little bit about it and want to know a little bit more, and for those of you who do know a lot about it and may forget little things here and there, this is pretty much could be a refresher as well. Um, We'll start off with when you first start the program. This is pretty much how the interface is when you see it automatically opens up Lightbox. So from there it gives you like a number of projects which is already selected that you can start with. You can also just navigate through different menus and folders which are actually on the computer. You can start from pre-existing um, items. You can find a number of brushes and textures, alpha maps. They have a number of things that are available to you that you can just start off with, as well as for those that probably use an older version of ZBrush, there's the quick save feature, which is located at the top right here, this quick save button, which basically will save, as you can see, your work in progress every time you either press the button, or if you have the default settings, it will automatically do it for you. And you know like if you're not doing any actions in the idle time, it will automatically quick save, and then you can just pick back up where you left off, and just in case you're in a hurry and you don't have time to like save the entire tool or save the project, or save your document. um, Lightbox has a number of things to offer. As you can see, it offers you a wider range of, like, for the brushes set that you may not find when you actually use it. I'll give you an example by going to a quick save document of something that I've already done. Also, when you notice a quick save file and it looks black like this, if you right click, you notice it usually should come back to what you've had before. I'll start from a different file. So here's a file that I was working on, and as you can see, there's like a number of brushes that are available to me here. But also in Lightbox, you have a number of more brushes that you can find in here. So if I look here, I might notice like just the damn standard, and then if I go into the brush set, um, you know, this damn standard, this standard bridges, standard line, not everything might be listed here, so you can easily go into Lightbox and pull out some more stuff that you need, not just for brushes, but for textures and alphas that you may want to use to work on your models. And, you can also change your strokes here, choose a few alphas here, or go into Lightbox and pull out some alphas yourself, as well as textures. Lightbox will be your friend for doing a number of things. Another feature would be Gozy, which can send your models back and forth between a number of programs. A helpful hint or tip for this would be to use the right click button when your cursor is over a model to rotate, move, or zoom in and out. So just right click and hold and move, you can rotate it. Left click actually draws on the model, so if you left click outside, and you can rotate it as well, but it works better if you right click, because then you can rotate it from a specific spot. You don't have to sit there and rotate it constantly with the left mouse trying to get the perfect angle. And the F key is always to center what you're currently working on, which would be your subtool. So your subtools are the different pieces. If you've worked in pieces for your models, but we could get into that in another lesson. Just want you to know that your tools are basically what you're working on, which is your model itself, and you can always load your tools that you saved or import a 3D mesh, whether you have it saved as well. If we look at the features, you can use binary mesh file, ASCII, which is also known as my.ma file, an OBJ. There's a number of different file types that you can actually import into ZBrush. You'll also notice that you'll have the edit mode, which is where you will have to turn on when you import your models to start editing. Draw mode is when you're actually sculpting and working on it, and the rest should be standard. Move, scale, rotate. So for you Maya users out there, some of the keys, the shortcuts are listed here, like the W, are similar to that of Maya. Right here, you notice you'll have like the material as well as the color channel. So while you're working, if you're sculpting, which is whether you're pulling up or pulling down, Z add or subtract, you can also paint the material at the same time, or just paint the color for the texture, or paint both the material and color. And you can always choose different materials to give different effects to your model that you're working on. And you could even go as far as to create your own. So you can also pull out side menu here, which gives you more options to control and modify, as well as, if you notice, the little power symbol lets you actually customize ZBrush in a way so that you have quick access to certain options rather than have to go through all these menu sets here. You can have ones that you frequently use on the side here if you need to, or you can just close it out. And this surrounding box is just in case you have a habit of using the left click to like do stuff. You can actually do it on top of the model in this outline area that lets you actually click without editing the model, as opposed to when you try to click on the surface here and rotate using the left click, which is why I prefer the right click method, because then you can do it at any point in time. Your intensity helps you to do how strong you're pulling, your draw size, as well as your focal shift. The draw size would be the entire circle, and the focal size would be the focus point within the middle of it. So it kind of gives it like a decay a bit. So as it goes from the inner circle to the outer circle, it's not as strong. So you'll notice different things about this as you play with it. And everything else, you can pretty much explore the colors right here. If you can pretty much select different colors right here, and when you're painting on the model, your colors will come through. If you can also always turn off the sculpt feature, so now it's not doing anything on the model, and then I could just turn on the color, for example, and you see it starts to paint the color that I currently had selected. So I'm only painting that only. So not only are you limited to you're not limited actually to just what's here, but you can also go up to the color menu set and plug in your own set of colors, and you can also fill the entire object itself that you or subtool that you currently have selected with whatever you're working with, whether it's just the color or the material or both. And you can just fill layers, under subtools, there's layers, you got geometry, which you can control like the levels of subdivisions on the polygons. You have the draw polyframe, which lets you actually draw the polygons out so you can see what you're working with, and then you can always dial it up. And you see it's like, this is pretty much what your character is made of. Um, your active points, your total points are the number of polygons that exist, and your active points are the number of points that you're working with. So if you ever dial it down, then you notice that it goes down to like 6,000 polygons, or you could bring it back up to your highest subdivision level, which gives you the most freedom to work with, which is in the millions. So don't be afraid to subdivide to like level 7. Sometimes, depending on the model, you might not be able to go past level 7 or even go past level 6. It all depends. ZBrush has a number of things. As well as, if they have other menus here, fiber mesh, which is used for hair. You know, you can play around with it. Basic use for fiber mesh is if you hold the control button down and use the left click, you can draw a masked area, and if you click preview under the fiber mesh, it will generate pretty much hair for that area, so you can like control the area, as well as, well, I could get into that in another lesson, but you can always turn the preview off, and while holding control you can actually click and drag out and it will clear your entire mask. So I could either mask it and clear it, or I can mask it and while holding control hold alt and just erase the mask. Now when working with ZBrush, any action that you do, if you hold the alt key, it will undo it and do the opposite of what it is. So rather than pull his forehead out, you saw it started to indent on the model. You have a number of things. You have options here also to clear the mask area. You have poly groups, which you can like actually keep this mesh solid, but then divide it into parts, so that way you can work on certain parts. An example of this would be, is like if I just wanted to work on just that section of the head, I can like just turn that into poly group and only work on this without it affecting any other part of the head itself. And this gives you options to help with that, so you can mask certain areas to do it. There's a number of shortcuts to ZBrush. Polypaint, when it's turned on, is basically everything that you've painted, like the color of the textures that you're working with. And then texture map is basically like, if I create it, I can create it based on the UVs that are laid out, or I can do from like the polypaint, for example. And you see, it gives me a texture that's laid out because the UVs for this model was already laid out based on what I painted for the poly paint on top of the model. And then you can always clone that. Anytime you clone anything, it goes over to this side, and you have the options here to export it, or you can actually go up into the actual texture menus and like export it from here. You also want to keep in mind that ZBrush, compared to other programs, works upside down, so it's always good to flip the V, flip it vertically, so before you export anything, that way it doesn't come out backwards. So you can turn the textures on and off if you decide to import your own textures. And you can also poly paint from the textures that you import. So if you needed to make some adjustments to like an already made character, you can just import their textures and repaint it from that, and then work from there. You can also control your UV map, which helps you get more detail if you bump it up, as well as it also helps with your displacement map and your normal maps. You have a number of options here that are helpful when modeling. And don't forget, you can always press the F key to center your model every time you rotate it. And the shift key when rotating. So I'm gonna hold the right click on the mouse to rotate it, and if I press shift, it will snap it to an orthographic view. So you can always work from different orthographic views, and you can also turn on the perspective to give it like a bit of perspective on how you're looking at an actual model. So this is pretty much how the model is viewed, and then this is how it's being worked on. So it's like, if you notice, it's two different views. I mean, there's a lot more features to ZBrush that you can use. You have a slider here under your tool set that you can like pick different objects to work on, and you can always go back to your most recent project. That's it for now. I hope some of the features were a bit helpful. Feel free to leave comments and feedback or anything you want to know more in detail, and I'll be sure to try to make a video for it.